guys. Welcome back if you are a returning human being to this channel. Whatever this channel is, if you look through my history of recorded and uploaded videos, I feel like a pretty big array of different things that I've tried to dabble in and do, ranging from anything to do with Star Wars and other kind of geeky media properties to even a little bit of self-help and fitness-oriented videos. The reason for that being that I have a lot of different interests, and I even did a cooking video, which was really not that good. I'm still scared with recording. I've had a YouTube channel for many years now, and even though I've had some success in regard to having a really positive community and a really supportive community here, I still get really nervous about putting myself out there. I have a lot of different interests, and those things change as I change through life. And I'm a big believer in we are not meant to be stagnant beings that are in stasis and hard-headed in our opinions, thoughts, beliefs, and philosophies throughout life. I believe that a well-lived life is one where someone is willing to open and change their minds in accordance with their experiences and the people that they meet and come to love and appreciate. And that's something that I've been through a lot over the past couple of years. I've seen things differently due to different experiences in my life. Those of you who are familiar know that I went through a huge upheaval a few years ago when my mom passed away. And I think for anyone, losing a parent is challenging, regardless of your relationship with that parent, even if the relationship is strained and uncomfortable. I think a child losing their parent is always going to bring some element of stress and disarray. But my mom was my best friend, and my mom was the person that I was closest to in this world. So losing her, when I say upheaval, I mean it. I went through a lot, and it changed how I view myself. It changed how I view the world. It changed how I view people, relationships, boundaries. It also happened in the midst of when the pandemic was at its absolute worst, and there were stay-at-home orders, and I ironically was kind of happy to isolate at that time because I really didn't want to be around anyone. And at the same token, I really didn't want to upload any videos and put myself out there or live stream, and that thread kind of continued. I don't want to use the word regret, but I do find it kind of regrettable that I did withdraw as much as I did. I stopped uploading a lot. I stopped streaming. I stopped collaborating with other channels a lot. I just kind of put my head down and dug into working on myself, working through things, because one of the things that my loss taught me was that I had issues already before my mom passed away. I think everyone has stuff that they need to work through in life, or that they should work through if you really want to be a happy person. There are things that you probably know that you would benefit from working on. And if you're avoiding those things, a word to the wise from someone that's been through it and is still going through it, I really recommend you start working on them, even if it's just a little bit out of your comfort zone every day or every few days, whatever you can muster. I kind of just wanted to speak more to the fact that I feel as though I've kind of distanced myself from this channel unintentionally, because I really love this channel, but I want to be able to be honest. And I've noticed that when I am more honest or more myself or more unencumbered with how I speak or what I express, I get really nervous. And for the most part, I get very supportive reactions from you guys, and most of the community that we've built here, I feel like, is a very open-minded, intelligent, thoughtful, communicative, in a positive way community. But it's really true, those few negative comments that you get, they really do eat away at you. And I feel that I'm a pretty open-minded person, and I really pride myself on that, actually, because I came from a household where open-mindedness wasn't always the default. I had one parent, my mom, who was exceptionally open-minded and warm-hearted, and she led with her heart. And then I had one parent, my father, who was very discerning and could be very critical, and he's very intelligent, and I love my dad. And let me state now that my dad and I feel, are closer than ever before. Looking back, it's cool that my dad was so steadfast in his beliefs and his opinions about the world and about people. And on that note, he could be a little bit critical. And I think as a child, that critical element will undoubtedly have an effect on you and how you perceive the world. So I kind of vacillated between this existence between being hypercritical of myself and sometimes judgmental of others, while also wanting that more open-hearted, open-minded stance. So I really do pride myself on trying always. It's not always easy, but always trying to be as open-minded and open-hearted as I can. These are all just things that I've kind of learned and understood about myself over the years, and I wanted to give an update, letting you guys know where my head's been at, because I really want to keep creating on this channel. But I also, at the same time, want to have the understanding that I am constantly working on myself. I am constantly looking for new ways to understand the world. I am on the back end. I am listening to podcasts, I am reading books, I am watching YouTube videos, I am listening to lectures, I am talking with other people, and I am always trying to understand the world from as many different perspectives as possible. And I'm always trying to expand how I view myself, how I view the world, and how I view others. I want to be a strong, healthy person in every sense of the word, and I want to leave a good, positive, lasting impact on the world. All of that creates a lot of internalized pressure, because when it comes to actually creating and putting myself out there, there are times where I feel inadequate, or I feel that, you know what, why put that message out there when I might change how I feel next week, or I might expand my horizons next month, or I might evolve my opinion within the next year. So it can be really hard as someone that always wants to be a student of life. That puts an extra strain, because I am definitely fearful about how I convey these messages, because I realize at the same time as me wanting to be open-minded, there are people that can hear one message and feel really validated, and people that will hear the same message that will feel completely invalidated and will get really ruffled by it. So that's something that I really want to be aware of. But I also realize I can't be so delicate with people, because that's their shit. Like, I realize when I get upset over something, when I feel like my feathers are ruffled about something, it's usually in direct correlation to my belief system, or an ideology that I've perhaps been holding on to, or a personal philosophy that I feel is being confronted or affronted. So I have to understand that other people are inevitably going to perhaps be upset or want to try to convince me otherwise. I'm totally understanding that people disagree all the time, and it's healthy to disagree. It's healthy to have different opinions and viewpoints and standards in life, because that's what makes the world interesting. That's what makes the world go round. But things have just become so divided, and people are so quick to anger and judgment. And I'm sure that's always existed since humans existed. We naturally form ourselves into tribes, and we become very tribalistic. And then when the personal ego is involved, it can be very dark for people. So I get it. I just wish we were a little bit more civilized when it came to our discourse online. I realize that there's not much I can do personally, because all I can do is conduct myself in a way where I realize that it's coming from people's projection. And sometimes it's helpful. If it's said in a constructive and well thought out or intelligent manner, it can be helpful. And some of my favorite comments have actually ended up being constructive criticism comments. But it's the energy behind it. It's the manner in which it's spoken or written. And there really is a lot to be said for intent. And if the intent is good, I really believe that people can make a big difference. But if the intent is to hurt or to stifle, I don't think that ever really achieves anything of good note for either party involved. What's the saying? Revenge is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. That's kind of how I feel about negative comments and people that make them. I've been watching YouTube for however many years YouTube's been around, and I don't remember ever making a mean comment or saying something negative. I remember thinking things in my head and being like, oh, that's so, what a bad take, or I disagree with that. But I've never actually said it, because I've always run it through the filter of, how is that going to help? Is it going to be constructive? Probably not in the way that I'm thinking about it. I've disagreed with people in the comments, but it's always respectfully, because I feel that disagreeing from a place of anger or judgment usually just gets both parties worked up, and then you don't have any growth. There's no lesson there. So anyway, I would love to keep creating. I would love to keep doing this. I just don't know what the next step's going to be. For those of you that are still watching right now, I don't know if you're familiar with this gentleman, the late, great Art Bell. He was a radio host back in the day, not that long ago. I believe he passed away in 2017. I discovered his radio show only a few years ago. He deals with all kinds of stuff, like all different types of callers and topics, like the paranormal, UFOs, ghosts, the afterlife, all that kind of stuff. And anyone who knows me knows I'm a huge skeptic, and I take all that kind of stuff with a grain of salt, although I do find it absolutely fascinating and fun to think about. My favorite part of the Art Bell radio shows was Art Bell and the way he conducted himself and the way he interacted with his listeners and his audience. And I just think he held himself in such a good positive regard. He never put himself above his listeners. He looked at it almost like, I like to think of it as he was captaining a ship and the radio show was the ship, and all these people calling in and the guests he had were members on board, and he was driving the ship through the sea of stars through the night. I don't know, it was really cool, and he handled people really well. He had a warmth to him. He could also have really good strong boundaries when it came to reining in callers that were a little bit absurd or over the top or a little bit too rambly. Yeah, I think he was an incredible creator before the time of YouTube. He's kind of a hero. I really look up to him in a lot of ways, just with the way he conducted himself on air with his audience. And I think he did really cool things, and he got to explore what he loved about the world and what he was interested in while still maintaining a sense of personal authenticity. I don't know, I decided that I'm making a video and I'm compiling a bunch of different footage of Art Bell and some of his stuff, and it's just kind of an appreciation video for anyone else that might appreciate Art Bell. And if you've never listened to Art Bell before, or if you've never heard of him before, I really recommend putting it in your YouTube or Spotify search bar. Just search Art Bell and see what comes up and see the first thing that looks interesting, maybe clicking on it and listening. It's a great listen. There's something so cool about listening to something, especially if it's nighttime, and hearing these people call in, and some of them get really riled up about UFOs and stuff, and it's really cool, especially with what's been going on now, 2023, with David Grush coming forward and all that. It's a good time to kind of explore this kind of stuff. So I'm doing that. That's something that I'm going to put out on the channel. I'm not sure who's going to be watching it, but if you are into that kind of stuff, yeah, check it out. It'll be pretty cool. And other than that, I have other ideas. I always have ideas. I have no shortage of ideas. I have a shortage of courage, I think, a lot. And I remember years ago, someone said, I think Kelly has some imposter syndrome. And at the time, I didn't really fully grasp what that meant, but now I realize, like, yeah, I do, and I did. And my life has taken a lot of twists and turns outside of YouTube. And I think one other thing that I want to touch on is when people see me on YouTube, I think that they assume that that's who I am and all I am, but I have a lot of stuff going on. I spend only a fraction of my time creating or posting or uploading videos, and then the rest of it, I'm trying to live a healthy, balanced life. I'm not on social media. I don't like social media. YouTube is the only social media I use. I don't like the idea of living my life online, constructing a persona for people to follow or believe that's more important than my real life. My real life is spent doing what I love and what I'm passionate about. And then I'll post snippets of who I am or my thoughts or my inner dialogue like this once in a while on YouTube. But as far as I'm concerned, I never want it to be something that's taken over my life. And I've seen it take over people's lives, and it's just not something that I would personally want. I understand it's very lucrative for people and it can be very beneficial for people as far as their personal freedom and financial freedom, and that's great. I feel very grateful that I have a Ko-fi membership with a small but such a supportive community there, and you guys know who you are. I am so grateful for them because they make me feel like no matter what I create, they understand that as a sensitive, weird little being, I can be myself and put myself out there in whatever capacity, and they're there, and it's really cool. But yeah, by no stretch am I an empire on YouTube or anything. I kind of like being small. I really just want this to be an organic extension of who I am as a person. And I don't really want to just be a content machine where I'm putting out reactions and videos about what's going on in the news and what's going on in movies and what's going on here. And I have all my opinions and my thoughts on those things, but I don't necessarily feel like my opinions or thoughts are important enough to put out there all the time. I don't want to be just another voice screaming in the YouTube echo chambers about what's going on in media and Hollywood. And yeah, it's sad that Hollywood isn't making as many great films as it used to, and that sucks, but I've just kind of made peace with that, and I've moved into more smaller independent properties. And Yeah, we might never get another Raiders of the Lost Ark again, but we're getting a lot of really thoughtful small features that might not have as much bang, crowd-pleasing moments, but there's something really special to be said for those quieter pictures that are more pensive and thoughtful and introspective. So I'm all for that because that's kind of how I feel as a person. I love Raiders of the Lost Ark. I love Jurassic Park. I love Star Wars. I love E.T. I love so many of the big Spielberg productions that came out in the 80s and 90s and even stuff from the 70s. And it's sad to think that we might not have that anymore just because of the nature of Hollywood and the direction it's taken. But at the same time, if that means that some of the better films to come out in the last 10 years are quiet and thoughtful and have a lot of subtext in them instead of the big action, I don't know. I'm okay with it. We can always have Raiders of the Lost Ark. No one's taking that away from us. It reminds me of a funny comment I saw on the Indiana Jones 4 trailer. Someone wrote, "Oh, I love Indiana Jones. I remember growing up seeing this. All I could think was, I can't wait to see him when he's 80.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Oh, that was such a great comment. Oh my God. People are so funny. That's the other thing. I don't want to sound too like negative or sad in this video. I love YouTube and I love YouTube comments. And for the most part, YouTube comments make me laugh my ass off, whether it's on my video or someone else's. I love people's humor. YouTube comments are some of the best comments out there. You know, you go into Reddit and you start reading the top comments, and so many of them are so kind of like pedantic and annoying. But then you go to YouTube comments, and the upvoted ones are, some of them are so funny and obscure and just great. So I still love YouTube as a platform. I love YouTube comments. It's a great place. Yeah, this is nice to connect with you guys, and I appreciate those of you who are still watching. I appreciate those of you who are here. YouTube's weird as a small creator. I consider myself a small creator. I know some of you have channels too, and maybe to you, I feel like a bigger creator, but I really feel very small because at the same time, I feel very personal with the audience that we have here. I feel like I recognize everybody's usernames. I recognize people when they come in here. I'm not so big that I've like outgrown my own community and I don't recognize people's faces anymore. Like it really does feel like a little community. I'll leave you with some cool things I've heard this year that have really helped me. One thing, my best friend and I were having a conversation. She's a new mom, and she was talking about how she receives advice from everyone in the world, including people that have never been parents before. And she said, "Let me just tell you this. Never take advice from someone who isn't living the life that you want." And I thought that was so cool. She said, if they're not healthy and you want to be healthy, if they don't have a peaceful life and you want a peaceful life, if they're not calm and you want to be a calm person, a calm, regulated person. I really agree with that. I think unwarranted advice is rampant now with people, but I think unless those people have done what you're striving to do, just take it with a grain of salt. And then another thing I heard is a quote attributed to Dale Carnegie, and it says, I don't want to misquote it, but I think it's, "Two men look out from the same prison bars. One sees mud, the other sees stars." This is probably my favorite quote of the year, at least. And I think it really sums up people's standpoints. And it really made me think about life, the current world, the current social climate that we're living in, and how quick people are to anger and be judgmental and critical, and people that are constantly finding things to complain about and whine about, and the victim narrative, the victim mentality. I'm just so exhausted with that kind of stuff. It's just freaking exhausting. And that being said, I'm sure I'm being a little hypocritical because I know that I've personally felt like a victim in different parts of my life, and I'm sure that I've found ways to benefit from it, but I don't want to do that anymore. I want to be the person that sees the stars. I want to see the person that strives for being better from within and not relying on any kind of narrative that gets me out of jail. I want to do the work myself, and I believe the man that sees the stars realizes that there's something to hope for, but he has to be the one to achieve it, whereas the one that sees mud feels hopeless, and that's all he chooses to see when he could choose to see something else. Anyway, I could go on and on about that quote. I love that quote. And then one other one was, "What worries you masters you." And that was a big one too. I really like that one because I've noticed when there are things in my life that I'm continually worrying about or focusing on that are negative, it becomes almost like my internal dialogue, my internal narrative, and it actually starts driving me in the direction of the very thing that I'm fearful of. And it really does, so it does master you in a way. It will become your greatest adversary, and it will also change how you interface with the world and with your own self and with your life. So be careful about the things that you worry about in life, and I think it's always healthy to assess and reassess where you're going with those worries and whether you're being constructive and productive or whether you're being deconstructive and counterproductive to yourself and your goals. All that being said, I think I'm almost done. One more thing I want to say is I do think that there's a loneliness epidemic out there right now. And as an introvert, I can understand. I enjoy having time to myself, but it's funny because I often vacillate between feeling like I want to be on my own and I also miss that sense of community. I long for a sense of community, and I think especially if you're living in a big city or even if you're more introverted in a small town, you might avoid your neighbors, you might not feel connected to people, you might want to distance yourself, but I think now is a really important time to assess where you stand in that regard and whether you might be able to open yourself up a little bit more to people around you. And I'm not just talking about online, because I know a lot of I'm more comfortable online than I am in person sometimes, but I think it's really healthy to organize yourself around what's most beneficial to you. As far as I know, we get one life. I think it's important to make the most of it. We think about the blue zones. If you've heard of the blue zones in terms of health, they're known to be the healthiest countries or the healthiest places in the world that coincide with longevity. And a lot of times people focus on the blue zone diet, Mediterranean diet, the Okinawan diet, that kind of thing. But what's really important to remember is that all of the blue zones are also very community oriented. And you can have community even if you're an introvert. Like Japanese people are notoriously introverted, but they also have a sense of deep community and respect among each other. So you don't have to be like a boisterous, Greek person that's going out having parties and kebabs all day long. You can be more quiet and have quiet tea sessions with your friends if you want. Like there are definitely ways to still invoke a sense of community even if you're more introverted. I really believe in getting offline. I understand that it can kind of provide a community experience to be online, and I know that as well as any of you do. I really feel that way. I think it's really important to get away from the online sphere and to really build relationships, even if it's just with a few really solid people to feel connected with, even if that's your parents or your sibling or your distant cousin or your girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. It's important to have those connections and real FaceTime without a phone between you, without a screen between you. And I think that's one of the things that's missing and contributing to the loneliness epidemic right now. But anyway, that's just thoughts that I've had over the last year or so. I think it's been about a year at least since I uploaded my last talking with you guys video, so I wanted to catch you up on all of that. But yeah, it's important stuff. And just remember, you never know what someone else is going through. From looking at me, no one would know that I had autoimmune disease or any of the other stuff that I'm dealing with physically, emotionally, mentally. You never know what someone's going through, and also no one knows what you're going through either. So try to have grace, try to have care, try to bring yourself into interactions in a way where you're understanding, you're holding space for your own emotional well-being and regulation, but you're also holding space for other people. And even if that's in a YouTube comment, just be aware, hey, maybe I don't need to share this huge emotional dump right now because maybe this person isn't in the place to hear it. Maybe, I don't know. I think that's a respectful way of conducting ourselves, because I think now more than ever, I hear people complaining more than I ever used to. I hear people venting more than I ever used to. And I hear people going on and on and on about what's wrong with their lives more than I've ever heard before. And I am slowly moving myself in the direction of what can I do to better myself? What can I do to improve? What can I do to lead a healthier, happier, more fulfilled and meaningful life for myself, which will then in turn add value to others? And it makes me feel so much better. It's hard work. It's harder than it is to complain and sit and wish that things were better, but it's worth it. It's worth the challenge. I promise you. Anyway, I think that's about it. I miss you guys a lot. I hope you're all doing well. Please take care of yourselves. You are the only ones who can really do it. Yes, your parents can take care of you. Yes, maybe your girlfriend or wife or spouse or husband or boyfriend or fiance can take care of you. But at the end of the day, you are truly the only one that can really take care of you in the meaningful ways that move you forward in life as a person. So yes, people can cook you dinner. Yes, people can put clothes on your back. Yes, people can even give you handouts. But if you want to move forward in life in a way that it's meaningful for you, you have got to do it. So, all that being said, take care of yourselves, please. I can't do it. Nobody else here can do it. Only you can do it. So, yeah, it's hard to say goodbye because I miss you guys. But anyway, love you guys. Have a great day. May the force be with you. Bye.